there. All right, so this month we're sort of going to talk about record keeping, and so why it's important to keep records. I think especially a lot of people in the community come from backgrounds with no livestock, and so record keeping is very foreign to them, and especially what kind of information they should keep. So I'm going to ask you guys, what kind of records do you keep? What do you consider important, whether in your herd, what information do you want to be able to look back at?
I guess I'll go.
Go ahead, Brady.
So the obvious, date of birth, weight at birth, if I can possibly get that. I don't actually wean my goats. I'm kind of trying that open herd concept. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we're going to give it a try. Anyway, but like about 12 weeks, I'm going to try and weight again. I'm thinking like 12 weeks, 6 months, and a year is when I want to try and get them weighed. Keep track of their growth. Vaccinations, if I give anything that I give them medically, I want documented.
Always good things. Any other types of records, Wendy or Charles?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I was making sure I didn't mute myself. We not knowing what direction we're going into right now, we're just keeping basic records for health, and of course their pedigree for diversity. I'm not a real morning person, and we have a really busy schedule so the milk part is probably but once we get in the right direction, we'll probably take records for whatever we're focusing on.
Always good. I think record keeping, at least in my mind, and there could be others that I'm forgetting, really come down to sort of 4 big categories. Herd management, which obviously it sounds like you guys are all taking care of, birth records, weights. Another really big one with goats, not just weights, but their height at the withers, so you know how tall they're getting. Also, how often you're deworming, if you're running FAMACHAs, what your FAMACHA scores are. If you're running fecal egg counts, what those counts are, since fecal egg counts are sort of subjective. It's not you've hit 100 eggs, you must deworm. Well, 100 eggs may be horrible for somebody's herd, but 500 another herd can get away with, so it really is subjective. The other things that record keeping comes down to financials. How much money are you spending on your goats? Do you know? You don't keep track of that one, Brandy Jo?
That one.
Financials are, I think a lot of people don't consider it. It really is important, especially as your herd grows, and especially if, not to be political, but if we're really heading into this recession that so many people are predicting, you want to be able to know that you can feed your goats. So it's important to keep track of that. For example, just food for thought, and not everybody needs to do this, but some might. Do you know how much it costs to get a goat to 8 to 12 weeks when is the typical age if you're selling kids? How much money does it take to produce a kid, to get your doe through that first year and a half so you can actually get kids on the ground? We know how much it costs us to produce a gallon of milk because we have a herd share and we sell milk. If you're going to butcher, how much does it cost you to get to, processing weight? Usually, typically, 50 to 75 pounds. Always really good things to know and to keep in mind. Financials. The other thing is also legal. As with all livestock, it's really important that you keep track of ear tags or tattoos, sales records, so that theoretically, if something happens, let's say you have a goat, that was born on your property 10 years ago, and it shows up with some disease, the USDA needs to be able to track that goat back to your herd just in case. And so it's always good to have those records. The association is required to keep those records for any goats that are registered through the registry. So, breeders should probably keep those. And then the last one, as we move forward, is sort of to keep in mind marketing and branding. As if you want to sell goats or you want to sell meat or dairy, you want to create a name for yourself, create a name for your herd. And the best way to do that is to have data. So, for example, we keep track of, like with milk, we keep track of our butterfat content. That's a really big seller. People like to know how much butterfat they're getting in their milk. They like to know how quickly it takes us to get to butchering weight for our bucks or wethers. So different things like that. A really great, let's see if I can pull this off, a really great website, and it's a spreadsheet that you can log or download, is called Livestock Compass. It is put out by the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And in fact, if you just Google Livestock Compass, it will pull up, and let me see if I do. Give me a second. You guys can tell me if you see. Well, that's the association website. Okay. Are you guys seeing the website? Is it showing up on this? I guess basically, Brandy Jo, is it showing up?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. If you Google Livestock Compass, it will pull up the web page, and I will tell you, the University of Wisconsin, their ag department obviously is not, well versed in how to put together good websites. So it's hard to tell, but you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and in very small print, it will say Livestock Compass V 2021, version from 2021. And if you click on that, it will allow you to download the spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet is just, I'll be honest, it can be overwhelming the very first time you look at it. And I'm not suggesting everybody should use this exact spreadsheet as much as to get an idea of how, types of records you can keep. It's all spread, and so hold on, let me find, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Give me a second. So there's a user's manual, explain everything, but there's worksheets for keeping track of your expenses. And then you'll scroll over at the bottom. They list, of course, beef, pork, broilers, turkeys, eggs, and we would want to use lambs because, Lord forbid, you actually have goats listed. It gives you, I know, so it gives you an idea of the type of things that you can keep track of, and it keeps track of how much feed you're using. You can keep track of how much feed you're using, how much hay. And you can come out, how much it costs, that it will cost you to keep or in this case, bucks, does, replacement breeding stock for your flock, and, kids to sales weight. And it's all this really great information and food for thought. And you can very easily make a knockoff version that's better suited for your farm, but gives you a great idea. I'm a huge fan of Livestock Compass. They also, just in case FYI anybody is into market gardening, their original one is called Veggie Compass, and it is all for market gardening. So I'm in love with that. It helps me figure out how to calculate labor into the cost of our vegetables. But that's a side note. And so I definitely suggest doing spreadsheets and stuff like that. One of our committee chairs, Sherry Talbot of Saffron and Honey, she suggested, based on her experience with the Soye Sheep Association, or Rare Breeds Trust UK, I think is who she registers through. They actually provide a spreadsheet specifically for Soye. Is that something you guys think would be helpful if we made something tailored specifically for San Clemente's for data for keeping records?
I think it would, because it would help strengthen the registry that we have if all of our data is streamlined. So even, okay, maybe a individual farm wants to keep their records a little bit different. If there's still some streamlined information that they could transfer over onto this, if they're choosing not to use it on a regular basis, just to kind of help, just add that extra level of, I don't know what the word is. I don't want all of a sudden, that there's just that extra level of, record keeping and data that's all streamlined. So if you're looking at goat XYZ, you've got its pedigree, you've got data, everything's the same when you compare it to, goat TUV or whatever,
So my next question is we've just started the process of working with a company to create an online accessible herd book. So it would have all of our pedigrees, but it would also have the ability for breeders to upload photos, update additional information. So for example, you would be able to at least give us an idea of how many kids you had a year, even if you're not, registering them all. That'll, different, or just even update so-and-so's been sold, so-and-so's passed, they've been butchered. So I'm guessing the same sort of application for stuff like weights and heights would be in the same format would work. Is that, would that be, everybody good with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Something that if you don't already have a system in place, it's a system your farm can adopt and just utilize. But also, we can use it with the herd book and stuff. That just kind of gives us that, the more data, the better, I think. And I also think the more that it's shared, the better. So.
Definitely. So how do you guys currently keep records? Are they handwritten? Do you have a program you use on the cloud?
I think the Sept.
I'm sorry, what, Wendy?
This, and with the goats, we haven't been keeping all the information about weights and stuff like that. We've got our birth records and our scrappy tags and all that stuff. Everything is tagged and kept like that. And of course, we keep up with if one passes or medicated or whatever. We haven't had time to actually set our goal with the goats, but I can reference it to our pigs. As far as our pigs go, we use FreshBooks for all our financial stuff. So on the farm, I actually take FreshBooks and I've customized it to where I can keep track of the amount of food that goes to the goats, the pigs, the chickens, and so on. And that's been really helpful as far as letting us know if we can afford to do this. I haven't gotten down to the nitty-gritty of how much it costs to feed each goat yet, but we do that in the pigs in a sense that we know how much they get per day, per week, and we've already established a processing time frame on them. So we know exactly how much we have in each pig that we send out. I also use the Excel spreadsheet, and I've created templates for them for our general herd as far as writing down who has litters when, how many they had, how many were registered, and so on and so forth, and then a spreadsheet separate for each litter that keeps track of each individual pig, who it went to, when it went, if it was processed, how much it hung for, if it died or whatever like that. We just haven't got that established for the goats yet because we haven't gotten in that direction.
Well, and you're just starting out.
Yeah, with the goats, we're just starting out. Now, with the pigs, we've been doing that for 5 years, but it's in the same line. As far as keeping records with registration and knowing how much you have invested and how much, your hang weight, your market rate, your price, how much you're making on a pig if you raise it out or if you sell it as a pig ready to breed or so on and so forth. But we basically use FreshBooks for our finances and then Excel spreadsheets for everything else.
So is it a program, an app? I'm not familiar with it.
FreshBooks is kind of like, what's it called? What's the QuickBooks?
Okay.
It's similar to QuickBooks. It's cheaper, and it's a whole lot easier to maneuver and customize. I can actually go in and I've got it set up that every entry I make goes to a specific animal or breed of animal, and I can pull reports off of it and just put, I want to know how much I spent on pig food this year. I want to know how much money we made off selling piglets, or I want to know how much we made off selling feeder pigs, at full-grown weight, stuff like that. And, I can do everything in it, including all the expenses of your fencing, building a barn or whatever, and also printing out at the end of the year for tax.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out. As I said, I wasn't familiar with it. Yeah, we've been using QuickBooks, and ugh.
There's different levels to it. I think I upgraded to $25 a month because I wanted to be able to add in more vendors or suppliers, rather. It only allows you like 5 at $15 a month or something, but then you can go up to like 100 at 25. So I did that because I had more than 5.
How cool. I was going to say, are there questions that people have or dilemmas they need, want input on, or?
Oh, having moved from, we've done rabbits for years into, into goats and stuff like that. I don't know. Sometimes there's just that feeling of I don't know what I don't know. And that's where I think it would be nice to have something a little more streamlined that comes from the association, so what's some information that I should be keeping track of that I didn't even think about.
Okay, that's a good. I was going to say, in my earlier committee meeting, we were also talking about like protocols. I think some people don't know like when they should. Sorry, a truck passing. People don't know like how often should they weigh or measure, are there deadlines, or even like weight, like when you hit a certain weight, like okay, you can stop until you can then do heights and weights at like a year or something like that.
Yeah.
So basic protocols, and I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Okay, so
and the San Clemente Islands are so much different than most breeds of goats. That, if I use the same information that my friend Kelly does for her boars, what am I missing? That's kind of how I feel right now. I mean, I want to really make sure that I'm keeping the records that need to be kept for this breed of goat.
Okay. Good to know, and good, so that we know what to provide and help with better education and improvement in herd management. Any other thoughts or input? Charles, I don't know if it's too much to type, but as somebody who's considering coming into the breed, what type of information would you be interested in having so that, we know what type of information we should gather for marketing purposes as a breed, for the whole breed? We'll give him a minute to type away. Sorry. Okay, Brandy Jo said there were multiple differences from other goat breeds. What are those briefly? I think basically what she's referring to is that they're an unimproved breed. So things that would never be acceptable in standard goats, we allow. We don't turn our noses up. I think the biggest one is being the supernumerary teats. If you had a standard dairy goat, if they had more than 2 teats, or even what might look as possibly a third teat or something hanging off, it's disqualified. In fact, I've been told that, I've heard, I've never seen it, but some dairy breeders will even use clippers to clip off extra teats because they want to be able to show the goat, or they want to be able to register it, and I think that's just, probably a little dishonest. Yes, so we definitely don't have a strict standard. Because record keeping has sort of, pedigrees have been done along the way, not consistently all the time, but data as far as heights and weights has not been consistently taken. And so we see some bigger ranges of heights and weights. We also see stuff like, I think a big thing is what's called cow hawking. If you're not familiar with cow hawking, basically it's a term to describe the back legs of any sort of a goat, cows obviously, antelope, and it's when the legs are slightly bow-legged in. In standard breeds, that is it's highly looked upon as unfavorable. And we did some research, and the reason that San Clementes are cow-hawked is because of being feral. Feral and wild goats, sheep, and similar are cow-hawked because that allows them to have better traction when they're going over rough terrain. So they're, sort of think of it as grip-on hiking boots. On the other hand, hold on. Charles will come to you back to you in 1 second. On the other hand, another issue with the cow hawking, if you allow them to be too cow hawked, it can cause their pelvis to be pinched, and that can give trouble with birthing. And it also doesn't leave enough room for an udder to hang properly, and so kids can have a hard time nursing. So it's finding that balance between, the slight bow versus like this, where they almost come together. And those are some of the types of differences that you see with San Clementes versus a traditional breed. Okay, what was Charles's question? We know where they originated. Have there been enough breeders over time that the breed can be considered to have several lines? Oh, Charles, you're giving me a hard time tonight. And I say that because our genetics committee is actually currently researching all of that. And they're working with Dr. Spanenberg, who is the technical advisor for the Livestock Conservancy. He's a geneticist. And yes, there are specific lines. We have farms that have created their own lines because they have bred and actively selected for 4 to 7 generations minimum. So for example, on my own farm, we have been focused on dairy, and we've been breeding since 2008, and I have been actively selecting. So we definitely have our own recognized bloodline. And I don't talk a lot about our goats because we've culled so heavily that when I talk about what our goats do and how they produce, it's an outlier, and it's not fair to, like my goats give me half gallon of milk a day on forage only. The average San Clemente will not do that. Forage only, yes, but you'll probably get more like anywhere from a quart to half a quart, depending on who they are. As far as coming off the island, there were three goats were actively taken off the island in 3 groups. And we have lines that originate out of those. And so we have bloodlines, foundation bloodlines that were only bred with island goats by one person. Off the top of my head, those particular lines would be Rivetti, Aaronsburg, there's somebody else in there. Oh, and Vancouver Island / Castro in Canada. Those have been isolated goats. They have no continual additions, and they've been bred consistently over 7 generations. Then this is where the big discussion is what term we're going to use, because they're not lines, they're really composites, and they represent groups of foundation genetics that have since gone extinct in their own specific line. So for example, there was the Milton Blake line in North Carolina. Milton Blake has passed. He no longer breeds goats, so obviously he no longer breeds goats. And the Blake line by itself no longer exists, but it can be found in the New Hampshire line, and if we can find the lost herd, the Gill line in Canada. We have Tepper, which is another line you'll hear about, and they specifically have Pine Cone, which was out of Georgia, and they have Oban, which was out of Wisconsin. So there are lines. There's more information that will be coming out, and as I said, they're currently working with the Livestock Conservancy to try to make sure our education and marketing is The Lost Herd. There's a book or movie with the title there. I have no doubt it's probably about it should be about San Clemente's. We're trying really hard we're about 40 years behind the times, so we're trying really hard to catch up and find all the history and information that we can. And one, we can always use volunteers if they want to call people and start to track down some of these people who are probably like, who the heck are you? And maybe they'll still have information about their goats. But we ask that otherwise you be patient while we try to, gather all of this from all of these different sources and put it under sort of one roof so we have access to it. Any other questions or thoughts? Brandy Joe's making coffee. I can tell from the kitchen.
So, the kitchen.
That's okay. I'm in a car sitting at the gas station because that's where I have Wi-Fi. So you never know where our breeders will be coming from you at. Wendy, Charles, Brandy, any other questions or thoughts?
Not today.
Okay. And the last thing. Cool. I won't put a plug in to join the association because everybody's already a member, so that's good. And if you haven't, go ahead. We'd love you to consider registering the goats. You can find registry information at scigba.org. We have a walkthrough and a flow chart on how to register goats, and we'll hopefully answer most of your questions. And that's all I had for tonight. And so unless there's anything else, I will say goodbye. And thank you guys so much for joining us. Next month, we haven't picked a topic. I guess before I say totally goodbye, we haven't chosen a topic yet for next month. Any suggestions? Anything people want to hear about?
I want to hear more about the open herds. I was just going to ask you who might have those and who I could reach out to.
Okay.
Kind of be a form of herd management. I mean, how are we, that might be something we can get into discussing more of. How do we want to,
programs? Oh, we lost her, volume-wise. Oh, there you are.
Oh. So, yeah, I like the concept of the open herd because I personally have a buck that will jump a very high fence when he's not with his girls, and he doesn't care if they're open or if they are 4 months pregnant. If he's not with them, he's jumping the fence. So it's kind of interesting to learn the different ways of being able to keep them as a herd.
We can do that. I know the way we keep herds is definitely different than a lot of people. We don't wean either. So that's definitely something a lot of people are not familiar with, like 8 weeks and they're done.
Right.
So, well, great. Okay. Well, we'll talk about herd management and sort of like setups, what different types of herds you can run and stuff like that next month. I like it. Well, great. Well, you guys please take care. Have a great rest of your evening. And the association is here to help. If you need anything, you have recommendations, please, please, please reach out to us. We're all volunteers. None of us are professional, association managers. And so we can always use, outside voices and outside, outside opinions to make sure that we're constantly improving our service to y'all. So have a great night, and thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.